The 1990s in the United States were a decade of optimism and transformation. A time when the Cold War ended, the internet was born, and a new generation came of age in a world that suddenly felt more open and more connected. It was a decade of economic growth, cultural diversity, and technological revolution. From dial-up connections to global pop culture, from suburban malls to the rise of Silicon Valley. The 1990s didn't just follow history, they quietly created the world we live in today. The 1990s began with the feeling that history had changed direction. The Cold War was ending. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, and the United States stood as the world's only superpower. For many Americans, it felt like a new beginning, a decade with fewer global fears and more possibilities. A sense of confidence and stability returned to the country, and a new generation, Generation X, began shaping culture, identity, and attitudes. The early 90s still carried echoes of conflict. In 1991, the United States led a coalition in the Gulf War, responding to Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. The war was broadcast live on television, one of the first conflicts watched in real time by millions. It was short, decisive, and it reinforced the image of the U.S. as a dominant global power. But it also marked the beginning of a new kind of warfare, one where media, technology, and politics were deeply connected. By the mid-1990s, the U.S. economy was booming. Technology companies were growing fast. Jobs were expanding. The stock market was rising. For many Americans, this decade felt like a return to prosperity. The idea of the American dream evolved once again. Now, it wasn't just about owning a home. It was about innovation, entrepreneurship, and being part of the digital future. Perhaps the most important transformation of the 1990s was the rise of the internet. At first, it was slow, confusing, and unfamiliar. The sound of dial-up connections became part of everyday life. Companies like Microsoft, Yahoo, and Amazon helped shape to the early digital landscape. People began sending emails instead of letters. Information became instantly accessible. And by the end of the decade, the world was connected in ways never seen before. The 1990s gave birth to the digital age. Culturally, the 1990s were defined by authenticity and individuality. Grunge music exploded with bands like Nirvana, reflecting the emotions and frustrations of a generation. Hip-hop became a dominant cultural force, with artists like Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G. Pop music also rose to global dominance with stars like Britney Spears and the boy band era. Music in the 90s wasn't just entertainment, it was an identity. It expressed rebellion, freedom, and individuality. The 1990s were also a golden age of television and film. Shows like Friends, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and Seinfeld shaped humor in everyday culture. Movies like Titanic, Jurassic Park, and The Matrix redefined visual effects and storytelling. Hollywood entered the era of blockbuster filmmaking and global audiences. Entertainment became bigger, faster, and more influential than ever. The 1990s also saw the rise of gaming culture. Consoles like the Sony PlayStation and the Nintendo 64 transformed gaming into a mainstream hobby. arcades began to decline, and home entertainment took over. A new generation grew up not just watching media, but interacting with it. The 1990s also reflected a more diverse and global America. Immigration increased, cultural influences blended, and representation in media slowly expanded. Discussions about identity, race, gender, and equality became more visible. The decade pushed America toward becoming a more inclusive society. As the decade came to an end, excitement about the internet turned into a financial boom. Tech companies grew rapidly. Investors poured money into online businesses. The dot-com boom created new millionaires and new risks. The world was changing faster than ever, and America was at the center of it. The 1990s were more than just a decade. They were a turning point, a bridge between the analog past and the digital future. A time when the United States became more connected, more global, and more modern. Without the 1990s, the world we live in today would not exist. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe and join us as we explore each year of the 1990s. One story at a time, because history isn't just something we remember. It's something that continues to shape us every day,